society. First, it allowed a long period of time during which a peculiar gender division occurred in American life. The man goes out and gets the rising wage. The woman doesn't. She stays home. She cooks and cleans and raises the children and has a happy face when daddy comes home at the end of the day. What is sometimes called a family wage. This peculiar arrangement in which the woman is house person, child person, food person, cleaner-upper, and all of that, is unthinkable without a wage that goes like that. You know how we know that? Because you all have given all that up. You ain't going to do any of that. The men, for those of you that are women, the men that you connect to or live with and don't want you to do that, and you don't want to do it anymore either, that's over. You know that your standard of living can't do that. Can't do it. Even if you wanted to, you can't do that. And for many women, it's a tremendous difficulty. Now, for several generations, as they have to be broken from that old model, which their mother or grandmother still has deep in them, and the newer generation of women have to... This is not just a feminist issue and so on. It is that. But it's also an issue of how this economy evolved that even made that possible. That kind of peculiar division. Okay, second thing that happened. Americans got the idea that each generation will live better than the one before. That it is to be expected as your kind of birthright, as somehow built into this culture, that your parents live at a higher standard of living than your grandparents, and you more than your parents, and your kids will outdo you, and so forth. And it's just part of the American marvel, the American specialness, that this upward and onward. Well, you can see what supports that idea, how and why that would develop, because it has its grain of truth. It also produced in America, I'm oversimplifying, but I want to make this point, it produced a peculiar union movement, labor movement. Part of the reason these wages went up was what unions fought for them. Unions were formed, fought, and part of this, not all of it, but part of this is attributable to what unions did. But it's very interesting that what unions did was to push for rising wages, which is interesting because they pushed for something in a society that was already happening. It's almost as if they played it safe. They pushed for something which then they could claim they had more than a little to do with. Dangerous thing for many people. Taking credit for something that might have happened anyway. Who knows? But in America, unions pushed for that because that's what workers wanted. That's what workers thought they were entitled to. That's what the whole culture said was the name of the game. Work, very important now, was about earning money. You work hard, you earn more. American unions then are distinguished, and always have been, by being less interested than unions in other countries in changing the rules of the game, in changing how the business operates, in changing who has the power. That was not their interest. Their interest was make more money, get a higher wage, get more days off, improve my real way. That's what it's all about here. Many unions have had struggles between those in the union who wanted to have a different vision of what a union does. It changes the whole way the society works. They were defeated most of the time by people who said, no, the job of the union is to get more for our members. Higher wages, better working conditions. That kind of unionism won in America. And it had a lot to do with this history that made that win. Lastly, this history of rising wages in America contributed to a very profound ideology, which is stronger in the United States than in most other countries. And I don't know what to call it, but I will call it consumerism. It is the notion that what life is about is consumption. There's a joke I'm sure you've all heard. Life is a game. The person who has the most stuff in his garage when you die wins. Accumulate. Have a nice house. Have a nice big house. Have 2 houses. Have a car. Have 2 of them. Accumulate. Have a kitchen with every gadget imaginable. Have your basement filled with boxes of appliances you've never unpacked. If you have a white refrigerator, get rid of it and get an avocado refrigerator. Right? Have a machine that grinds your coffee as well as cooks it, etc. Right? It's a society in which consumption becomes an incredible value. I'm going to exaggerate. I am exaggerating because you'll see where this goes, but I'm not exaggerating by much. It's a society in which human beings begin to measure their own worth in terms of consumption. I'm an important person because I drive that car, I live in that neighborhood, I take my vacation over there, look at the outfit I'm wearing, look at the restaurant I'm dining in, etc., etc. I am, as every advertisement you've all seen says, I am a Rolex man, or whatever. That is, I literally become the things I can acquire. I'm successful, meaning, look at all the stuff I got. It's a society in which you're willing to do all kinds of things if the payoff is more stuff. If you ask people what kind of job they want, most Americans answer in ways that do not describe the work they will do, but rather describe the income they will get. I have a good job usually means a well-paying one. Not good in terms of how I interact with the other people I work with. Not good in terms of the social usefulness of the work I do. Not good in terms of the experience it has for me as a person. It's how much money I earn. And that in turn is important because I can buy with the money. That's important because it means people think like that. They think about consumption. Consumption is crucial for them. Americans accept working conditions that are in many ways more pressured, more speed up, work very high intensity. And when you ask them, the few who understand it, why are you working at a pace which other people in advanced countries would not accept? Why do you do it? For those few who understand that that's the case, which it is, by the way, in case you don't know, the answer is, for the knowledgeable American, I want that amount of stuff. I want that. Americans work, right, for example, today, 20% more hours a year than Europeans, on the average. Do you understand that? For every 5 hours a European works, an American works 6 in a lifetime. That's amazing. Americans work their asses off to accumulate money to take, when they finally have enough, a trip to France and Italy where they admire the pace of life. But that's what they do. They come back and say, these are marvelous people. They go out to dinner at 7 and they come home at 11. And they like to sit there for hours. I don't do that. I gobble coleslaw while working at the computer. Well, that's what I do. That's what I do. That's why my keyboard is all gluey. Right? Americans have a hard time thinking, for example, of the following. that it might be important, if you're troubled in your life, to transform the work experience. Might be more important for you than to get another $10 an hour. The work experience, the thing you do 5 days a week, pretty much from the time you get up in the morning, because you're getting ready to go to work, to the time you get home in the evening after you've traveled from your place of work. You put it together, that's the overwhelming bulk of your lifetime. The time that you're not dead. You're living. But we accept as a people work conditions that are absolutely atrocious. Time, pressure, speed, machinery we have to manage, and so on. Because that issue has not been a concern of American workers. It really hasn't. The Americans are concerned, how much am I going to get paid at the end of that day? And I'll take my pleasure in consumption. I'll suffer the work experience to have the consumer experience. The work experience is negative. The consumer experience is not just the positive. It is the measure of your worth, your success, your importance, what you've achieved in your life. It is the clear measure for everyone else and for you too. Okay, why is this so important? In order to make that point clear, I want to superimpose on this line a second line. And this line, same period of time, this line represents productivity. What does that mean? The amount of stuff produced by a worker per hour. That's all. The average, you're averaging of course, the average quantity of output per worker's effort. You can measure in hours, days, doesn't matter. And I want you to notice something. The productivity also rose. And it actually rose at a slightly higher rate than the wages. In other words, and it's very important you understand this about America. Yeah.
So that's not the difference between what they produce and what they actually earn for their...
I'm getting to that. You're ahead of me, but you're going in the right place. This is the output per hour. This is the wage per hour. The very thing I told you about, the ability of the worker to put aside the conditions of work, to basically give that to the employer. You pay me enough, I don't care what you do with my working time. I'll do it the way you want it, how you want it, under the conditions you provide, at the pace you insist on. I'll do all that. But you got to give me more. That's the deal. Okay? Because the worker permitted it. And because the employer discovered that this is a pretty good deal. I can pay my worker a bit more every year because I'm getting even more out of them every year.